Welcome to this week's Gamers on Game. I am your host, Nada Miljkovic. I have the great pleasure of speaking with Emily Martinez. Emily, welcome to Gamers on Game.
Hi, thank you.
Emily is a digital artist who's doing some really interesting work with EEG machines and brain-computer interfaces and video installation work. And she is also the continuing in our series of Dynamites, those graduating MFA students here at UCSC in the Digital Arts and New Media program. And they will be having this amazing exhibition called I've Got What's on Your Mind. No? You've got what's on my mind?
Something on my mind.
I've got something on your mind.
No.
It's something like that, and it's going to be happening April 29th, the weekend of April 29th, 30th, and 31st, and then the following weekend, March. May
4th?
May 4th is the giant, amazing party that's going to be happening, the reception, and then that will be the second weekend of gallery openings, and you'll be able to see everyone's installation work, in particular Emily Martinez, who has a piece called The Ghost of History. And it's very interesting, and it explores memory and how we embody memory, and the networked media influences of how histories are reinscribed onto themselves. And you are creating this through an immersive digital cinema experience composed entirely of appropriated web content that's reassembled as animated loops. Now, the really interesting thing is it's going to be remixed in real time by the participator themselves, by the viewer, and the viewers fluctuating, we all fluctuate, brainwave rhythms. So you're getting data from the person's brainwaves that then is influencing the video.
Right.
And Emily, you sent me a couple images of some of the video that people will be possibly integrating.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting layering of these appropriated contents that you're getting from the spring uprising.
Yeah, everything's from the web. I can't even begin to cover like what
all the content comes from.
It's seemingly like very disparate, but that's how everything I think kind of works when we're triggering, connecting memories and ideas. So yeah, the idea kind of came before the memory thing. I had seen this piece at the New Museum in New York by Brian Geisen called The Dream Machine. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I'll say it really quickly. It's a record player, like 78 RPM, and he had put a cylinder on it and cut out all these shapes in the cylinder and hung a light bulb in it. So it's spinning and you stare at it, but you close your eyes. And the flicker rate and like those shapes, you'll start to see patterns emerging behind your eyelids because the projection areas of your brain are they're searching for pattern. So this is kind of like, for him, I think I read something somewhere where he was calling it, something about the end of art would be experienced with eyes closed, which I thought was such a grandiose statement and kind of amazing and exciting, but at the same time a little bit but wait a minute, it's a two-way kind of thing, you have to already have the experience of taking things in order for all of this other stuff to begin to appear, because it wasn't just this, geometric kind of from your brain projection you could eventually see full images. It was hallucinating without taking any kind of substance, or anybody who does any kind of meditation maybe can get into those spaces. So that's kind of where the idea came from, and I became really interested in light and seeing and the eye and how visual perception and then mental observation kind of work in this sort of oscillation, and then looking at the image and asking myself questions about the digital image and what makes that different or unique from previous modes of image,
paintings,
right? Even photography, analog, all that stuff. It's a completely different universe. So I've been like appropriating stuff for a couple years now. That's kind of how I make work. Like I don't really care to make things. Like it's all there. It's just putting it all together. So, you know, with the internet, networked media, I just became really interested in how things just kind of get reinscribed constantly. You know, you look at like anything like bloggers, a lot of these online games, Second Life, all the virtual worlds. Like I'm really fascinated by all of it, and then all of the recreations that are happening in art and music and in everything really. So that's where I'm drawing all my content.
Well, it seems to be kind of in fashion right now to reinterpret, reconstruct perhaps dances that happened at the very beginning of dance, in the turn of the century, that is, before we have film that could take an archive of what was happening. I mention this because Mark Franco was on, and we talked quite a bit about this trend in philosophy and digital media philosophy that's coming out of Rotterdam and Amsterdam and all that stuff. And then the idea of appropriation and who owns the idea, who owns the seminal piece? Does it all go back to ancient Greek philosophy? Is it all... You agree?
Yeah.
Well, the record companies don't agree. Not that we should agree with them, but I'm just saying
that,
it is...
take it back like 800,000 years. I don't even know where it all begins. But
Right, exactly.
Everything built on everything.
Everything builds on everything, and your use of this video content, is it mostly from YouTube, or?
Oh no, well, a lot of it is stills. Most of it is stills.
I see.
And I'm taking the still and then, you know, I'm writing like my own actions and like running things through filters. So I'll make like really short things, like 3 frames. Like I'm really into the animated GIF. I don't even know how to say that word. But you know, and all of the kind of impossible things that people try to do with images online, like make gold or silver. Like those colors don't exist in RGB, but they do kind of, sort of. And you know, there's a lot of flashing, blinking things, and it's just a completely different world and way of working. There is some video, but I'm like, again, that's like really short, so it'll be a few seconds. I don't think I have anything longer than a minute.
And then it's remixed through the brainwave, through the person who's participating. So they have to put on a cap?
It's actually really discreet. It looks kind of like your headset. It's not a giant helmet. It's not Clockwork Orange. They're kind of making this more streamlined. Like the headset I'm using is kind of targeted to gaming and like, you know, the iPod generation. And
it's picking up the electrical impulses that just are naturally happening on your scalp.
Right.
And these electrical impulses are following rhythms of your brain making them.
Yeah, I mean, there's like...
No, your whole body's making it. It's
right,
like,
right.
But you're picking it up on the scalp.
Right. And there's like, you know, certain frequencies, ranges of frequencies of brainwave activity that are associated with, you know, for example, being more relaxed meditation. It's like a slower, like alpha wave state. Beta would be like right now. You're kind of doing your thing, and you're awake, and you're alert, and we're bouncing around, and I'd say that's pretty much there. So I'm trying to sort of kind of have, I really don't really know how I'm doing this part yet, but have the kind of state you're in somehow correlate with the images you're seeing, and eventually, you know, those things will kind of like feed off of each other so that you can change into maybe a different state if you spend enough time with it.
Sounds like some biofeedback happening. You are listening to Gamers on Game, and this is Emily Martinez. She is a, you like to call yourself Cuban?
I don't know.
Cuban American?
I don't know. I don't really have a question mark.
And she is not the usual immigrant story, I guess, because
I identify with the immigrant experience.
You do.
I just like I don't know. It's been one of those things where I'm like believe in these
No, it's good.
It's weird.
Don't go there.
Okay.
But you were raised by cats, portable cassette players, and the Miami culture. So I'm assuming you grew up in Florida?
I did. And my mom and dad.
And of course, they had a major influence in your life. And you emerged. Miami's got a big contemporary art scene and conceptual art scene.
Sort of. It's kind of happening.
And you have exhibited the whole decade, 2000 to 2010, and doing group and solo exhibitions and collaborations. And then you came to Danum. And what I think is interesting is, are you, this was one of those questions, should you go on Artist on Art, Gamers on Game? It happened to work out today because Danny Sheehan is more of an artist. He has no gaming correlation whatsoever. But your work, you're using a gaming headset.
Right.
And so what is a game and what is not a game? And I'm just thinking out loud here, can your experience that you're providing with the Ghost of History, if somebody starts manipulating it, maybe consciously, maybe they're figuring out how to go between alpha and beta state, which is what the biofeedback people, that whole movement was about, training your brain and being able to get yourself into certain states, specifically if you want to be creative, you want to go in your alpha state. If you want to, right? Or, I don't know. Yeah, something like that. And so, so is that when it would be a game? Is when you would be able to start playing with the machine?
I mean, sort of. I don't know if it's a question I've had, because I was like, where does this fit? Is this cinema? Is this like, like what am I actually doing?
Obviously interactive.
Interactivity thing, so does interactivity automatically make something a game?
No, I don't know. How many game dynamics do you have? Do you have a checklist? I got really 5 out of 12, so now no.
And nothing at all. There's really no, like, I'm not interested in you monitoring your, like, levels of anything. Like, I want people to be fully immersed in this experience and to be kind of self-aware that you're active in creating your reality, whatever that is. Specifically
the images that are brought together through your brainwave activity. I'm imagining no one will ever have the same combination.
No, have the same combination.
You will have your own completely unique experience with this. And are you putting on a helmet? Is it a screen? Projection?
It'll be a giant projection.
Giant projection. So it'll be a room.
Yeah, room.
And do you know where you'll be in the dark? Because that's where this is all be happening?
In the actual, like, dark lab.
Dark lab. And you had 2 other people that's going to be...
Alexei
will be having... And Natalie McKeever will be having her piece, her helmet.
She has the helmet.
She has the helmet.
Natalie's got it.
And then Alexei...
has an oracle.
Oh, right.
He is an oracle.
So, it's going to be interesting to have you 3 together. And then, do you think there'll be some kind of spatial differentiation, or we'll find out.
We'll find out, yeah.
And that's at the Digital Arts and Research Center. This is where the exhibition is happening of the Danumites. Emily Martinez, you've been working with video mostly, you think, or what's been your main mode of media?
Right now?
In general, let's just say.
Oh, what?
As an artist.
Mostly 2D.
2D.
I did a lot of photography, and I just started working with video actually last spring. I had never worked with video before, but it was kind of a natural, like, I think that's always what's happening anyway, like that's what's happening in your head or when I imagine things, so
those images move.
Yeah, so that was a, really easy transition. I'm enjoying that.
So when you look back at your work in the first decade of 2000, I know, you look so young. Emily, did you do a lot of layering with your photography, or is this something that's come out?
Really? Well, I did a lot of straight photography, but I was always more interested in the relationships between images than, having everything self-contained within an image. So that just became a way, now I've transitioned to video. It became this natural progression away from the straight image to maybe a bunch of straight images, but there was like a ton of them, and
They all relate.
it was all about the relationships more than anything.
And then you've moved recently into video, and I'm assuming you made the program for this whole interactivity, this computer-brain interface happening. A Max MSP Jitter?
Right. I'm working in Max and Jitter, which is great. I love Max. So
Max is the program, if you want to have an interactive video piece, if you want to create one, program one, Max is a very important program that we teach here at UCSC.
And it's really, well, it's not friendly at first, but it's friendly especially if you haven't had any kind of programming experience or background, which I did not have. So
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. I mean, I had taken like an intro class in C++, and then, I've kind of done a little here and there, but that's not something you can just dabble in and forget about. I think that's like a serious daily commitment.
Definitely. Of years. You can't just pick it up. But for whatever reason, Max MSP Jitter seems, well, I know what reason. It's very visual. You put these little boxes around and you connect them, and then you start putting in different little programs in each one of those boxes, and you start making loops and feeding input, output. So it is a little bit easier, but again, it takes some time to learn it.
Right, no, for sure. I'm still learning it.
And then, are you using an Arduino, or how are?
The headset I have works with Bluetooth. Although right now it's not working at all. It's crashing my program, so that's not good. And it's still kind of newish, so I'm like, I'm searching all the forums. I'm like, where are the geeks that have my answer to my questions, and there are no answers right now, so we'll see what happens.
Well, you might be just pushing.
I might have to switch
headsets. What headsets have you been looking at?
Right now I'm working with the NeuroSky Mindset, and I was looking at the Emotive, which is a more popular one. It has more electrodes. Mine only has like one or two.
And I remember when the Emotive came out, it was really big news. I want to think in 2008, 2009. Basically, it's a headset that you put on the back of your neck, and it reacts to it.
It looks like tentacles. I don't know.
It looks like what?
It looks like tentacles. Like there's like a lot of them coming out over your head. So it's like the bridge between the headset and the helmet, I think.
Right.
You want.
It's a bigger thing. It's more evasive than it sounds like the Sky NeuroSky. And it was created through technology for paraplegics. It was a medical device for people to be able to interact with their computer that didn't have the ability to move their hands. And so that then got picked up pretty quickly by the gaming industry. And I remember one of the first programs they had was you could, pick up things and throw it just by thinking about it. And that was huge. And now it's off the shelf.
It's like $300. Although their developer software is kind of expensive. I think they need to start giving that away.
Open source.
Yeah, please.
We'll make it better. And again, this is Emily Martinez talking about her installation, The Ghost of History. So we talked a little bit about how you came up with the idea, and that it was this Brian Geisen and light, and how that affects flickers in your brain, and when you close your eyes, and manipulating that after view, or whatever you would call that
it's not an after image, although that's something I was also interested in.
It's different from an after image. It's behind the eyelid.
I don't know what it's called, or if it's called anything.
But we all have it.
But it has something to do also with the rate of flicker, which your algorithms at a certain frequency. I think it's the scanning frequency. So that's kind of like when you're seeing. It's how you translate what's out here in space into signals in time in your brain. So it's creating kind of like an interference with that process, which is why maybe you start to see all that other stuff. It's also why people that have like a low threshold for seizure
Yeah.
might not want to have the experience I'm going to provide, because that could be bad.
I remember when they had that, there was a video game that was making a bunch of kids have seizures because of the pulsing,
Right.
the pulsing light. So everybody's done this, I think, or most people, where you've looked at the image and then you close your eyes and you look at a wall and there's that image again.
That's the
This is
after
what
image. Yeah.
that's the after image. It's not what you're playing with.
I am playing with that.
Oh, you are?
Also, yes.
Okay.
I'm
So you're
playing with
playing-
all of it.
All of it.
I'm like,
Throw it all in there.
it's all in there.
Okay, so how does memory come into it? Oh no, we only have a minute. Shoot.
Talk about that?
Okay,
Can I, what do I say?
I don't know, but there's memory involved with, for sure, the after image.
Right. Well, I mean, the whole thing, the whole, like, you're taking in these images. I'm going back to, like, network media, and, like, I was thinking a lot about, kind of these images that persist, like, the ones that just get recycled a million times, and how that stays in our, like, collective conscious, whatever those images happen to be, and how now that's just become so much more, like, hybridized, because we're just, I don't know, there's like a building exploding, and there are kittens playing, and then there's porn, and all of these things,
How do they relate? Because the mind, like you said earlier, Emily Martinez, the mind is always looking for those patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for coming on, Emily.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see your project. It's very dear to my heart. I love this kind of stuff. And please stay tuned for Unfiltered Camels. You've been listening to Gamers on Game. If you missed any part of this show, please go to artistonart.com and you'll find it there, and gamersongame.com. And thanks a lot for listening. I love y'all. Santa Cruz.